opportunity to practice is while this group is going. So if you guys want to go ahead so that you're not exiting while they start talking, you can move out to the hallway.
I think Miss Elliott's just going to do a welcome and introduction.
Oh, total lies, total lies. Just a lot of lies. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to your Funding Our Future presentations. I know you're nervous. Just take the deep breath and let it out. All right. The form that you have to score each other's presentation, there should be 2 per group. So all of the people from one school will decide on the score for the group, and then the other school. And at the end of presentations today, we'll give you a little more information about how to electronically record that as a large group. Both you'll put your heads together, decide what your final score for the group is going to be, and then write the amount of money that you want to put towards that project on an online form, a Google form, imagine. All right. Because you will be able to go to the hall and present, you will have the first group, the second group, and then if you're presenting third, you obviously will be out in the hall while the second group is presenting, so you won't have a score for that group. So you will not have a score for your own group. So basically, it's going to skip the group right before you and yours. When you finish with these today, you're going to write your group topic name at the top and give it to your teacher. Everybody with that? So you'll give it to Madison or you'll give it to Greene. Whomever your teacher is will get the paper copies, and the online Google form will compile all the other stuff. What questions are there? All right. We've already fussed about cell phones, so remember those are off and out of sight. The restrooms are literally across the hall. If you need to leave the room, go through the back door, please. And once this group's coming in to present, the other group is in our office practicing real quick. But be sure you get up to leave when the other group comes in to present so that there's not commotion. Like, don't get up in the middle of a presentation to go practice. Make sense? All right. You've got this. It's going to be good. Our first topic this morning is stem cell therapy.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Emerson Belair. This is Jacob Doolin, Briar Ayler, Aiden Kalea, and Caroline Bruton. And for our Funding Our Future grant proposal project, we researched stem cell therapy. For our proposal, we are choosing to attempt to create a bandage-like product infused with stem cells. Our idea is to hopefully heal wounds faster with the help of stem cell therapy. Our objective is to heal wounds like burns or possibly even just a cut or scrape that may or may not need stitches. With the offered budget, we are going to hire staff, find a place to work with lab equipment, buy the necessary supplies, and try to partner with UVA. While working with the idea of the bandage, we are also going to attempt to allow for more approved forms of stem cell therapy within UVA. We will also use UVA's labs and equipment to figure out how and why stem cell therapy helps heal and close wounds and skin. Once we gather enough information, we will create a prototype of our product, and animal testing will be conducted to see the results. After lots of testing, our product will hopefully be approved by the Food and Drug Administration. After it is approved by the FDA, our product will be sent out to local hospitals and clinics for use. We will also be able to meet the budget given to us, and anything beyond our budget will be donated to us by UVA and their hospitals.
Research on stem cell therapy has been going on for many years now, and in recent years there have been multiple successful clinical trials with stem cell therapy treatments. Despite this success, however, there are still concerns with stem cell therapy, like their high price and the ethicality of embryonic stem cells.
Our project plans to address the expenses of stem cell research and therapy, along with making more therapies approved, increasing the accessibility for citizens, and providing more insurance coverage for patients. Currently, stem cell therapy is extremely expensive for those who need it, and we plan to address this by making an everyday bandage infused with stem cells that will decrease the cost of stem cell therapy. This will also increase the accessibility for patients that require stem cell therapy. Another issue involved in stem cell therapy is a lack of approved therapies within the field. We plan to address this by making a easy-to-use bandage that it has been highly researched prior to giving it out to the public. A final issue we plan to address is the lack of insurance coverage that is provided in this field, and this will be solved by increasing the safety of stem cell therapy and decreasing the prices.
The overall goal of this project is to create a stem cell bandage that can help reduce the need and use of stitches. The bandage could be used on deep lacerations, cuts, and burns, all without creating scarring. The bandage could also help increase the stage for other stem cell therapies, yes, and increase the awareness, the safetiness, and budgeting for other therapies. We could also use the bandage for military in the future and help with shrapnel wounds, gunshot wounds, and more. And then this is the timeline we would be using to create the stem cell bandage. The first 5 months, which will be the longest, is the research and development of the stem cell bandage. We will be working with UVA and have the research done within the 5 months basis. After that, we will move into testing. We will be testing on a variety of animals of shapes and sizes with different wounds. After we view how the animals react to the stem cell bandage and make sure that the body isn't rejecting the stem cells, we will be testing on humans and be looking for the same thing. This would take about 2 months. Then we will be gaining FDA approval. Once we gain the approval at the FDA, we will be incorporating the stem cell bandages into the hospitals near us. The main hub for the hospitals, or for the stem cell bandage, will be in UVA, and we will also be going into other hospitals around the Central Virginia district and maybe even out of state.
In order to create and test the stem cell therapy bandage, we'll be partnering with the University of Virginia Hospital, who already has one FDA-approved stem cell therapy treatment. Sorry. By partnering with them, we will be able to reach all across the country with our project, especially our local area of Central Virginia. In order to avoid ethical concerns with using embryonic stem cells, we will be using induced pluripotent stem cells instead, which are adult stem cells that have been programmed to behave like embryonic stem cells. We will also, after creating a prototype, we will begin testing on animals like mice.
After successful animal testing, the treatment will be registered with the Investigational New Drug Application, or IND. Under the IND, the FDA investigates experimental procedures and treatment for safety. Human test trials are allowed to occur, and so using volunteers from the University of Virginia Hospital, we will test to see if the bandage works with human test trials. If these are successful, we will transport the stem cells to Fort A.P. Hill near Richmond, Virginia, for continued testing and use. In the future, if the FDA does approve our treatment, it will become available through the University of Virginia Hospital, as well as its affiliate, to people in need throughout Central Virginia. In total, the estimated budget for our proposal should cost around $1,015,000. The creation of the bandage can be divided into 5 steps. IPSC costs, stem cell preservation, facilities, staff, and testing. The largest of these categories, staff, makes up around 37.4% of the total budget. This will cover the hiring of 3 full-time and 2 part-time researchers from the University of Virginia, as well as possibly other institutions from around the United States. The second largest of these, IPSC costs, will make up around 32% of the budget. This will cover the costs of reprogramming adult stem cells into an embryonic state and creating enough stem cells for the amount of bandages needed for human testing as well as animal testing. Stem cell preservation will cover the purchase of industrial grade freezers as well as freezer trucks to preserve the stem cells both at UVA, Fort AP Hill, and in transit in between. This will make up around 20.3% of the budget. Testing, making up around 6.4% of the budget, includes IND participation. This also includes the cost of purchasing mice and their care. Additionally, human test trial compensation fits into this category. Facilities, making up 3.6% of the total budget, will cover the renting of 1 laboratory and 1 office from the University of Virginia. While our proposal does go $15,000 over the amount of this grant, the extra funds will be acquired through fundraising and donations from the University of Virginia. Stem cell therapy shows great promise in potentially being able to cure a variety of ailments. By working together with the University of Virginia, our proposal will work to provide ethical, affordable, and most importantly, safe stem cell therapy to the residents of Central Virginia. This will change what was previously thought possible for those who in need of stem cell therapy or other treatment for burns or wounds. What used to take months to heal could be healed in a matter of weeks, reducing pain, scarring, and treatment time, while also increasing the chances of patients making a full recovery. Our proposal is also going to be a milestone in the road for FDA-approved stem cell therapy, as it will be one of only 2 available in our area. Despite this, stem cell therapy is extremely expensive, both to provide and to undergo. Because of this, we need the generous support of this grant in order to make our stem cell therapy bandage a reality, because starting in Central Virginia, our proposal has the potential to change the world, pushing the boundaries of FDA-approved stem cell therapy and alleviating human suffering. Thank you.
All right, so before we hit you with questions, I just want to point out one thing to all the groups. I do really appreciate how you helped each other out when people got like a little nervous and get stuck. Don't leave your group members standing there hanging in the wind. If they get stuck or they get a little nervous or they freeze, it's okay to turn and add a little prompt. So thank you for exemplifying that. It was very good. It shows good cooperation working as a group, which is part of the rubric.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate that. Good work. Couple questions for you, and I think the one I'm most curious about, do you have a target or intended price for this bandage when it's all said and done? Because I could see it being a great thing for minor wounds that might need stitches. Oh, I've busted my chin, but is the price going to be worth it for that healing benefit?
So at first, most likely not. It will probably be used only for very severe wounds because stem cell therapy is extremely expensive, and part of the grant would help to cover some of the costs for initial testing and such. The University of Virginia would hopefully also provide us with donations, and increasing insurance coverage would also help to cover the costs. But because stem cell therapy is so expensive, at first, we probably would not be able to use it for minor wounds until it became more common.
Okay, so that's kind of a pie-in-the-sky dream, is turn it into a household sort of over-the-counter thing. Next question. You're suggesting, and I'm curious, your background research, that is this just a bandage, like a silicone bandage with stem cells kind of added onto it? Have you found any background research suggesting that applying stem cells to a wound does increase how fast it heals?
Yes, we have. It helps to close it. There have been human test trials by just injecting stem cells into the site of where the wound is located. Yes, they do help to bind together the wound. There's currently nothing like a bandage that has stem cells implemented into it, but we do have research to suggest that that is possible and would be effective.
Thank you very much. Last question here.
Caroline doesn't have to be the only one to answer.
Yeah, by all means, if you want to pass that mic on, go for it. So kudos to you on wading through some potentially controversial water. So you're tackling stem cells and animal testing in one presentation. Brave. Mice you mentioned as a starting model, but let's say hypothetically, so two-part question. Do you find it likely that a human cell might be rejected by a mouse in terms of your animal testing?
I feel as if, yeah, human cells may be rejected from the actual animal itself, like a mice or mouse. So we'd have to use that animal, like the mouse stem cells for mice and human stem cells for the humans themselves.
Okay, cool. Glad you kind of came up with that. So then how would you then test human stem cells before you're ready to head on? What kind of organism comes to mind? I'm thinking you probably want something with a little more DNA conserved between your...
Probably like apes or other in that primate category.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your attention there. That was a fabulous presentation. All right, ladies and gentlemen, our next presentation is on organ transplantation.
Hello, everybody. I'm Kira Colvin, as Allison Meter, as Alyssa Decoulette, and we are representing Orange County. This is Edith French, and that is Diego Lewis, and they will be representing Greene County. Organ transplantation is the transplant of organs to a person in need. There are donors that could be living or that has recently passed. The wait list for organ transplantation is 4 to 5 years, and there also has been a shortage of organs that has been going around the U.S. If that's not bad enough, the price of the procedure and the aftermath of the procedure is pretty hefty for a middle-class family.
One of the main issues that this topic faces is the lack of organs. People are put on long wait lists, or some people even turn to the black market to look for organs, which is unreliable and pretty risky. One potential that researchers are looking for is 3D bioprinting. Through this, we can produce organs faster than ever before, and how this works is you basically just take the patient's tissues and you layer them on top of each other. The one issue with this, though, is the functionality of these organs.
The biggest problem with organ transplantation is the lack of organs. As previously mentioned by Edith, most people don't get their organs, and this is a problem because they need them to live. This is shown by the fact that in 2021, only 39% of patients looking for organ transplants got their organs. This can be combated in many ways, but the main ways scientists are looking into is research into xenotransplantation, and as previously mentioned, and research into artificially printed organs.
So, as Edith said on her slide, 3D bioprinting is a great option for the future of organ transplantation. If we were able to fully fabricate these functioning organs, then we would be able to save so many lives. Just imagine how amazing that would be. That's the green light. Okay. Do you need me to restart? Okay. So the future of organ transplantation really does rely on things like 3D bioprinting. Fabricating these organs could save so many lives. Just like really imagine the amount of lives we could save. And also, this is a great addition to the future of medical technology and medical science. We also need to talk about the logistics of this kind of situation, though. Realistically, this would take a very long time. This could take anywhere from 5 years, it could take up to 20 years, and obviously that's quite a bit of time. However, we need to stay optimistic because the future of those who are on those waiting lists really does rely on technology like this.
And obviously this is going to cost money, so it is important to get the funding and we can hire the people we need, and obviously this is going to cost more than $1 million, but hopefully once we get this funding we can continue to fund throughout the years, and by the end we'll be able to supply organs to millions of people. And obviously, since this is going to take a lot of time, I tried to break it down into a year, which was very difficult, but there will be a big spike in the beginning due to initial cost of everything, including materials and staff, and hopefully it'll level out throughout the year. And by the end, there will also be another big spike due to more hiring of things like surgeons to actually do the transplants.
Like Diego and I mentioned earlier, the biggest issue is the lack of organs in this topic. Again, people are going to the black market and finding organs, which is an issue. The potential of 3D bioprinting, yes, may take a long time to achieve, but we still need to try, because think about it. You want to live your life to the fullest. If you have organ failure issues or any other issue that you may need an organ transplant for, you don't want to have to worry about it. You want to go out, live your life to the fullest. These people need to be saved. They need the chance to choose life. Thank you.
All right, great job. Thank you guys for your proposal. I have a question really quick. Have you guys had an opportunity to do any background research regarding the likelihood of synthetically produced organs being accepted by a recipient? And if you have, how does that likelihood compare to traditional transplant methods?
So because there hasn't really been a successful transplantation, there really is no data about that yet. However, if it were productive, then it would likely probably be around the same as a traditional organ transplant.
Thank you very much.
Just a little housekeeping. You'll notice that there is a break scheduled at 10:30. We probably will not take that. So again, if you need to pop out to use the restroom, feel free to do so through the back door. Our next group is on genetic testing. Please hold.
Sorry about that. Carry on.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Kaylee. This is Carmen, Heath, Ryan, and Sam. We're from Orange and Greene County High Schools. For our Funding Our Future project, we conducted research on genetic testing. Through our extensive research, we decided that the grant proposal money should go towards making genetic testing more accessible. Currently, genetic testing is very expensive and not easy. People don't have easy access to it. We propose that polymerase chain reaction, or PCR machines, be put into local pharmacies of the eight counties in Central Virginia. Sorry. Currently, genetic testing is very expensive and not easy accessible, so with our hope, we plan to make this more accessible to the public and cheaper.
Scientists and researchers recently developed something called exome testing, which sequences a whole coding region of the genome. And it spits out this information, as you can see in this picture right here on the left. Some of the concerns or issues in genetic testing would be it's expensive, reaching up to $2,000 for a singular test. It is also sometimes hard to get a test. And in some regions, you have to travel a little bit, just not very accessible. Also, there's sometimes hard to reach information. You can solve this by seminars, having a lot of information. So you can improve a lot of this information and improve technology that is not improving as we improve society, which is what happened with exome testing by them, advancing it. Next thing. And we decided as a group that we would make genetic testing more accessible. And you might be wondering, why is this important? In genetic testing, it opens up this whole new doorway. It allows people to discover diseases they didn't know they had. It allows you to test to see what diseases your children might inherit from you. It also allows you to see what diseases you might develop in the future. And you can do this by putting PCR machines into pharmacies, lowering costs. If you get a test and you're positive for something, you can make sure it's not on your insurance. There's lots of different ways that you can, improve upon things.
So what we're actually going to do with this money is, instead of doing seminars or advancing technology, we already have the technology advanced enough so that you can see the entire genome and then map and then discover mutations that could cause diseases. That's what people are looking for. And so what we're going to do with the $1 million, if we get it, is send 8 PCR machines out to the 8 counties in Central Virginia. And they're going to be distributed into the local pharmacies. The local staff is going to be trained in how to use them to help the public use them. And after they are distributed, we're going to air public service announcements to notify people that they are here. And this will be really good because after the PSAs have aired, everyone will know how to use them. They're very new, and so they should be able to be used without any outside help. You know, one of the biggest issues in this field is that people cannot get to the testing site, or that it's too expensive, because these things can run upward of like $2,000. And so this will really impact that a lot, as opposed to just running seminars or trying to advance technology, because we already have the technology advanced.
All right, for the budget, the PCR machine that we would be using is the Quant Studio 6. These cost around $65,000 each. So for 8 PCR machines, 1 per county, it would cost $520,000. But I was in contact with Samantha Robinson from Thermo Fisher Scientific, and she said that there would be a 20% discount. So that would bring it to a total of $16,000. And this machine is very user-friendly with an interactive touch screen, so pharmacy workers could easily be able to use this machine. And the machine is one of the most advanced on the market today. The machine detects very small changes in DNA and allows you to identify even new strains of a mutation. In addition to the PCR machine itself, we would need the TACMAN PGX Express panel. This panel is essentially what you load your samples onto, and this allows you to see certain stretches of the genome. This is the most realistic option, because to see the entire genome is kind of unrealistic for a typical pharmacy, so we could target specific areas of the genome and see specific diseases. And these each cost around $1,794. So 8 of them cost $14,352. And for transportation, I base the prices off of like U-Haul prices, which would be just something to go off of. It would likely wouldn't be U-Haul, it would be something issued by the government. But it would cost around $320. And we would have 2 billboards per county to spread awareness for it, and that costs around $950. And a TV ad, which would just be a PSA airing on local TV stations, which would cost around $8,000, to a grand total cost of $4,053,872. And for logistics, this would likely be issued by the government. The government ordered the distribution of the PCR machines, and in February these machines would be ordered, and they would be delivered around March to a place to UVA, where they would then be distributed from there, and they would be like checked to make sure everything's operating properly. And a likely partner for this would be like CVS. They're a very well-known, widely known pharmaceutical company, and this allows us to expand it further based on the success that it has here in Central Virginia. So by April, they will be delivered to a pharmacy in each county, where the workers will be trained. And then by May, the advertisements will air, and they'll be ready for people.
In conclusion, we will be putting PCR machines in different pharmacies throughout the county, 8 counties, and making genetic testing more accessible and less expensive. So because it costs around $2,000 per genetic test, the more, like, if we get the grant proposal money, we'll spread more PCR machines throughout the counties, and the more PCR machines there are, the less expensive they will become. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. 2 quick questions. Which one of you was the genius that actually reached out to... You got a nod from me on that one. You guys came to play, clearly. Good job on actually reaching out to a company like that. I do have one pretty chief concern. So you said it's $1,794 for one of those panels, right?
That's for, oh yes.
Are those reusable?
Yes, you can reuse the panels.
Okay, do you know roughly what the reagent cost is to run one PCR panel per patient?
Around 2,000.
Around 2,000, and that's what it would cost with your budget proposal? So after you've done all your work, after you've sent the machines to the pharmacy, and your goal is to reduce the cost of genetic testing, it would cost what per person? If I wanted to walk in and use the machines you spent money to get set up, and I want genetic testing, how much would that cost me that day? Do you have a rough ballpark figure you're trying to get that price to?
I would say, for a while, at first it would probably be slightly more expensive, but by the end it would probably only be around like $200. It's essentially like running a COVID test. They're the same machines with similar panels. You would schedule an appointment and it wouldn't cost much. At first it might cost upwards of $500, but it would go down probably around $250, I would guess. It's essentially the same technology as running a COVID test.
It is. Great work. I really applaud you guys. I think the one thought I have signing off is I would be really interested in you diving into your consumables and reagents as a cost if you were to ever follow up on this project and really nail down that number. Because it's one thing to get a machine installed, that's great. And you're right in that a lot of places have a commercial machine that's available and it costs a lot of money. But then your big barrier of entry for this is going to be in your non-reusable reagents. Great job, guys. Thanks.
All right, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Our next group is genetic modification in humans.
Our topic is genetic modification in humans, which is the intentional alteration of human DNA to produce desired characteristics and prevent genetic diseases. Hi, my name is Abby. This is Antonia, Landon, Danielle, Alex, and Emma.
Genetic modification aims to create cures for certain diseases as well as create optimal traits. This is only possible through the revolution of genetics by Gregor Mendel, as he discovered selective breeding as he bred 2 pea plants in 1886. This laid the foundation for Boyer and Cohen, who inserted DNA from one bacteria into another in 1973. Further genetic exploration continued in 1990 and was referred to as the Human Genome Project. Within a period of 13 years, this project was successful on creating a genome sequence that was 90% equivalent to that of a human. Moving forward, genetic modification is important as it provides scientists with a deeper understanding of the function of a human genome sequence, as well as supplementing their ability to create cures for human diseases. This inspired our proposal. The proposal at hand deals with cadavers donated and their transportation to UVA There they will be studied and experimented on in hopes of expanding scientific knowledge on genetic modifications in humans statewide.
Current actions taken by government and FDA are through the Institutional Review Board. This board regulates testing in order to protect humans and their rights in America. When it comes to worldwide issues, the Ethics Review Committee deals with that. These tests worldwide are protected by ethical reasoning and is developed by the World Health Organization. An example of this is He Jianku's test in 2018 where he genetically modified an embryo in order to create two twins, Lulu and Nana, who are now resistant to HIV. These two twins are still living today and are being heavily watched, as this guy has been jailed in 2018 and was released in 2021 and fined $200,000. This leads to our main question: how will these be addressed? These issues are going to be addressed by our proposal, which is the use of cadavers in order to test DNA sequencing and study so they can be used in living humans. We are finding more information through the lab we are using, through Farber Lab. And Farber Lab will be using our information and the testing we are doing on the cadavers. So our main issue is a lack of human DNA. So people are reluctant to donate their bodies to science and be tested on. So using cadavers, people can put their cadaver to use and be used in scientific testing. So this will save lives because we will be researching the DNA sequencing in strands, and we can gain knowledge on how to prevent diseases such as cancer and Alzheimer's that are used in, or that are caused by genetic malfunctioning. So we are partnering with Farber Lab, of course, and we will provide them cadavers, and their goals will be the same as ours, so it will benefit both groups, us and Farber Lab.
So, as previously mentioned, our proposal is to utilize cadavers, which will allow us to expand our knowledge on how to safely and effectively genetically modify human DNA. To jumpstart our idea, we plan on forming a partnership with Farber Lab, whose logo you can see here. Conducting research on cadavers is beneficial because while it is necessary to gather more information to advance in this field of study, testing on living people is highly unethical and very dangerous. Our proposal is the solution to these setbacks because there are much fewer ethical concerns with testing on cadavers rather than altering the lives of living people. This method will still provide promising information and data and insight on the safest and most beneficial way to fight genetic diseases.
Our budget comes out to a total of $947,400. Our expenses include equipment such as more refrigerators, more trailers, and pickup trucks. Our employees such as managers, office workers, and truck drivers, and finally utilities for power, water, and internet. Our largest expense was employees. Our largest expense was employees, $300,000, as we need 2 managers and 5 office workers, and that came out to 32.8% of our entire budget. Our largest single expense was marketing at $250,000, or 27.3% of our budget. Our lowest expense was morgue trailers, as they are $3,500 per trailer, and we only need 2 of them, totaling $7,000.
So, cadavers will be collected through voluntary donation similar to organ donation processes. Hired truck drivers will use morgue trailers to transport them to University of Virginia's Farber Lab, a research facility which works to understand genetic disorders. To promote our program, we will use advertising such as TV commercials and posters hung up around Charlottesville near UVA's campus. Our goal is to use cadavers as test subjects to eliminate the moral questionability of genetic research and allow for progression that will lead to new discoveries. Our main goal of our program is to reduce stigma around genetic modification and to pilot a new attempt at fighting genetic disorders. By March, we hope to obtain our grant money, and by April, we hope to use it to acquire an office space to conduct operations from and to begin marketing our program to gain interest. By May, we will purchase our equipment and hire our employees, and by June, we will kickstart our operations. By July, we hope to have things well underway with having received at least 10 cadaver donations. By August, we'll begin analyzing the results of our testing.
In summary, we aim to facilitate the transfer of cadavers to Farber Lab to test the effects of genetic modification in humans. Testing these effects using human samples allows us to gain a better understanding of how humans will react when foreign DNA is inserted into our genome. This will provide us invaluable information about genetic diseases and how to prevent them, and will lengthen the lifespan of those affected. Thank you for listening. Any questions?
Thanks a lot, guys. It's very well researched. I was interested in your example of the scientist that got arrested for modifying some human test subjects. A pair of twins you mentioned that were designed to be HIV resistant. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes.
Okay, well-researched premise. However, what I notice about your proposal is that you are talking about bringing cadavers to make genetic material for the purpose of these kinds of testing more available. Am I understanding that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Then the issue of eliminating an ethical problem still remains, and it's understanding why this scientist was arrested. It wasn't for procuring DNA. We can do that with a piece of hair. That's not necessarily the hard part. The ethically murky waters is the fact that he created a living human test subject in violation of all kinds of international understandings and laws about human testing and genetic components. So maybe you can help me understand how will the transport of cadavers to UVA help eliminate the issue you've set out of this moral and ethical issue of creating live human subjects.
Okay. So with our proposal, we're hoping that these cadavers that we're using, they're not living humans, correct? So we'll be taking the DNA, we'll be testing them, and hopefully this will have the issue of the ethical issues. They're so these DNA strands can be used, and it will be seen by the governments, and the ethics review committee will be able to modify these DNA safely, and hopefully test subjects could be used in living humans, and the ethical issues may be resolved.
So to add on to what he's saying, a big part of our goal is to learn more about genetic modification. So by testing on cadavers before we test on living people, we can understand more before we start doing more ethically risky and health risky things.
Okay, that's where I'm getting lost. So you want to genetically modify something and see if it works. How do you genetically modify and then test on a cadaver? That's the jump we're having a hard time following, you guys. I understand sequencing from the cadaver, but actually modifying a dead tissue is where we're losing you.
So our goal is to understand more about human genome sequencing using dead bodies, or using cadavers and testing on them. And then we hope to do that with living people once we understand it better. So by understanding the construction of DNA and how everything is put together, we can understand how that translates to possibly curing genetic disorders and helping the lives of living people.
So you're focusing more on sequencing than modifying?
In order to understand how to modify, yes.
Okay, that's kind of where thank you. Sorry.
Great job, guys. Thank you so much. All right, we're ready.
All right, so now we have performance-enhancing drugs.
Hi, I'm Connor. This is Audrey, Megan, Grace, Catherine, and Danielle, and we did our grant proposal on performance-enhancing drugs, which will be referenced as PEDS throughout this presentation. Our proposal was to create a program called the Jefferson District Anti-Doping Program, also known as the JDAD program, and we intend to decrease the amount of PEDS addiction in Central Virginia because a lot of people are unaware of the negative side effects that come from the misuse of PEDS. The first historical significant event regarding PEDS in professional sports was in the 1954 Olympics when Russian weightlifters would inject themselves with testosterone to enhance their performance, and this event made PEDS a worldwide topic. A second event that is more familiar to some of us is in 2012 when Lance Armstrong, an American cyclist, was stripped of his Tour de France titles after his PEDS usage. PEDS is an important topic in biotechnology because it provides awareness to people who don't know the negative side effects that come from the abuse of PEDS and providing them with better alternatives. More awareness about this topic can decrease the amount of people using PEDS and eliminate any dangerous side effects that come from abusing PEDS, which will be described in more detail later.
Current actions being done to help prevent the use of PEDS in sports, which is commonly referred to as doping, includes the institution of organizations such as the United States Anti-Doping Agency, or the USADA, and the World Anti-Doping Agency, or WADA for short. WADA's goal is to develop and coordinate anti-doping rules and regulations. They publish the World Anti-Doping Code, which requires all elite and professional athletes to follow WADA's anti-doping policies. Other organizations include the Atlas and Athena programs created by the Hanley Foundation, which are gender-specific programs that promote anti-doping awareness along with the overall health of young athletes. The Atlas program targets adolescent male athletes, and the Athena program targets adolescent female athletes. These programs focus on alternatives for athletes who use PEDS in sports, which include adequate amounts of sleep, exercise, and nutrition, along with a good mental health and relationship with themselves and others.
PEDS have had many harmful effects, but has mainly impacted youth users. Student athletes feel pressured into using PEDS in order to receive scholarships, improve their overall performance, and satisfy external pressures. This issue should be taken more seriously because it has very severe health risks, including cancer, depression, agitation, addiction, and even heart failure. Educating the public about these risks begin with the younger generation. Informing young student athletes about the many detrimental effects associated with misusing or developing an addiction to PEDS will help prevent them from using them later on and suffering these consequences. As stated before, our idea to help combat this issue is to create a program dedicated to raising awareness about PEDS. We plan to do this from providing services that give healthier alternatives and host events that encourage people to stay away from PEDS.
In order to reduce the uses of PEDS in Central Virginia, we created the Jefferson District Anti-Doping Program. JDAD program was created to inform high school athletes about the alternatives and cons of performance-enhancing drugs. A guest speaker, sponsored by JDAD program, will annually visit the 8 different schools within the Jefferson District in the beginning of the school year. Having the guest speak in the beginning of the school year will enable all athletes to hear the speech prior to their upcoming sports seasons. This guest will be well known among the student body. Since this guest is well known among the student body, it is our hope that the students will feel more inclined to tune in and listen to what the visitor has to say. We will also provide information to receive professional help, including a therapist or a specialized doctor, so students can obtain the proper care. The program hopes to have a positive feedback response throughout the district of its declining drug use rate.
For our program, we will bring in a guest speaker on a specified date every year for 3 years to every school in the Jefferson District, and they will give a presentation in the school's auditorium or gym about the negative effect of PEDS. These guest speakers will be certified doctors, and they will inform students about the safety of using these drugs, alternatives to using these drugs, and how these drugs can affect them in the long term. The impact of our actions will be measured the impact of our actions will be measured by how many people are educated on this topic and how they go forth in the safety of using these drugs or not using them overall. As regular drug tests are administered to the student athletes of these schools, data will be collected on how many positive test results of each student for using PEDs. Our hope is that as more students are educated, the rates of students using PEDs will dramatically decrease. That is how we will know that our impact is lasting upon the minds of adolescents. In our timeline, you can see that in July of 2023, we will hire employees such as the project manager, accountant, and publicist, and we will start our website headquarters. And then in July of 2023, we will communicate and organize travel plans with the guest speakers and also advertise our program. And then in August into September of 2023, the guest speakers will visit the Jefferson District schools. And then throughout the rest of the year and into 2024, we will have more advertising.
Our budget is $1,001,790 for 3 years of our program, with all additional funding coming from monetary donations. $200,000 will be used to pay for staff, which includes a publicist, an accountant, and a project manager, with another $100,000 set aside for the publicist to use for advertising. $90,000 will be used to pay our speakers, and $11,760 will be used to pay for their living and travel expenses. You can see the table if you want to see a further breakdown of our budget. And then we have our 3 speakers that we plan on having, which is Dr. Pham, who spoke on a TED Talk about the effects of PEDS, Dr. Murray, who's a general medicine professor, and Dr. West, who's a sports sciences professor. Both of these professors wrote numerous research papers on effects of PEDS on the human body.
Our mission with the JDAD program is to decrease PED addiction and usage in the community, especially in adolescents, and to inform families and students about the negative effect of PEDS, which most are unaware of. Currently, the most worldwide known programs actively informing people about the negative effects of PEDS are the World Anti-Doping Agency, Atlas, and Athena. The issue at hand is that many students are pressured into using these drugs as a way to attain their ideal physical appearance and to impress the people around them and get scholarships. The JDAD program will bring a guest speaker to the campus of every school in the Jefferson District and give a presentation about the negative effects of PEDS, informing parents, teachers, coaches, and students. The JDAD program must be funded because it will inform students about the negative effects of PEDS, which will prevent them from potentially damaging their bodies long term. This will not only open the eyes of students, but also parents, teachers, and coaches. This will further educate the community. On the negative effects of PEDS and will be lasting throughout generations. No student wants to have their life expectancy dramatically decreased or their health in severe constant risk because they wanted one game or season to be their best. Thank you.
Howdy. Great job, guys. Question for the group. You are discussing measuring your successes in this program. Can you define how you're going to measure success and whether or not it's effective for me?
So some schools in the Jefferson District give out like drug tests to the student athletes, and so we hope that as we give these presentations and more students are informed that these rates of people testing positive for using PEDS will decrease.
Interesting. I think the issue I see, because you've got a however here, is that schools can't force drug testing, especially without cause. So here's the scenario I see. You've got a real sampling bias for your definition of success here. People are going to need to opt into your drug testing program. Now, experience-wise, I tend to find that opt-in programs tend to have a very positive confirmation bias because the people showing up there are the ones that are already passionate about that issue. So how do you plan on assessing the particularly at-risk, high-risk, what was the, you called it, what was the acronym you used for performance-enhancing drugs? It was PEDS?
PEDS, yeah.
PEDS. So how do you plan on addressing the particularly at-risk students for PEDS if you can't force drug testing?
So without drug testing, like you said, they can't be enforced, but there is like believable, like for Louisa County High School, our athletic director, he told Audrey that they always base it on probable cause, and if there isn't like acting up in classroom, if that's not a problem in the specific scenario, then they go to look at the records, like if there's like a change in their like if they behaviors, like if they become significantly better at a specific part of their sport, like for track or something, or if they become significantly worse in that, then they're able to narrow it down to saying, okay, something's going on, and they can talk to them, and if they have reason to believe that it is like performance-enhancing drugs, then I guess that's our way of measuring whether or not, through these presentations, that we're able to decrease the amount of belief that they are involved with performance-enhancing drugs.
So you're proposing exactly what? The probable causes. You're saying that what with those will happen? They'll go down, they'll increase, you'll be able to count those? What's the idea here?
If there's like a decrease in belief that they're involved with it. It's sort of hard to keep track if there's not drug tests involved, which as a whole consent thing, like we have to send out consent forms in the beginning of the school year to make sure like if you can be involved with a drug test to make sure you're not using steroids or stuff like that.
So I'm going to kind of put you on the spot. So thinking futuristic here, right? You can't drug test the kids. How does your program still work? Like I think you've got a good concept. You're heading there, but if you can't drug test the kids, how are you going to go further with this?
So we still have the speakers speaking on and informing on the negative effects of PEDS, and they are medical professionals, so they know what they're talking about. And there's a ton, like literally a ton of negative effects on PEDS, and they will go over all of them, and they're very drastic, some that we can't really talk about here, but but yeah.
Thank you very much. Bonus points for having a slogan and acronym that you can sell. Great job, guys.
Just another housekeeping note, we are going to skip the second break. If you need to
We
step
are.
out, please feel free to do so.
We're ready when y'all are, by the way.
All right, the next group is speaking about antibiotic resistance.
We're antibiotic resistance. I'm Rachel Wynn. This is Jillian, Catherine, Wyatt, Jackson, and Courtney. What exactly is antibiotic resistance? Well, this occurs when antibiotics are no longer useful and don't do what they were proposed to do. This can occur due to many different things, but mostly due to the evolution of bacteria. When antibiotics are overused or misused, the bacteria can eventually evolve to basically fitness, and the ones who are best fit to survive and reproduce. This can create a large issue and render the antibiotics useless, leading to us having to create new ones or make them stronger, which is actually very dangerous to make them stronger. In our proposal, we are enacting a plan to create disposal of antibiotics effectively, because disposing of antibiotics is one of the true issues of this topic. When we use antibiotics, we often just forget about them and we throw them away, which can lead to pollution, actually, and it can also lead to many issues in the environment, especially with animals as well in agriculture, with animals that are exposed to these antibiotics all the time to the point where they just don't even work anymore. We are enacting a proposal to have a drug disposal building and trucks and resources and services to help the public better dispose of antibiotics safely without it reaching humans and animals.
Antibiotic resistance is a major problem, so government agencies like the CDC and the World Health Organization play a key role in stopping the spread. The CDC has created the AR Solutions Initiative. Through this program, there is widespread communication between local, national, and international governments with the CDC. In 2016, the U.S. government gave CDC $150 million, which increased to about $200 million in 2020. With this money, the CDC has created over 330 initiatives in over 30 countries worldwide. They have also increased the funding for antibiotic resistance research. The World Health Organization has many programs of their own, one being the Global Antimicrobial Resistance Surveillance System, which is a collection of antimicrobial data that can be accessed worldwide. Antibiotic resistance is deadly, killing up to and over 700,000 people annually. Our main concern is the throwing away of antibiotics. When antibiotics are thrown away, flushed down toilets, or washed down sinks, they enter environments and contaminate our water systems. Contaminated water systems could mean that people are taking in small amounts of antibiotics, making their immune systems vulnerable to resistance. To combat this issue, we propose that local governments approve our plan to create a proper disposal site for unused medications.
So for our proposal, we are proposing to build a building in the upper Central Virginia area, specifically in Louisa County, that can be an easy accessible site for people to dispose of their medications properly. With this building, we plan to have trucks and drop-off locations located in near pharmacies, grocery stores, residential communities, malls, and easy accessible places. The trucks will then come and pick up sealed boxes of these medications in these disposal sites as pictured here, and they will take them back to the warehouse where they can be properly disposed of. This is important because, as Jillian said, when the antibiotics get into the water system or when they're shared or misused improperly, people can be consuming these antibiotics and their bodies can build up a resistance. So when they do get sick, there's nothing to treat them. This is the most feasible option for us because we're not asking to start a law or start from scratch. This is already something that's in place. It's just not as commonly known, and it's not something that is easily accessible. There are drop-off days where you can go and drop off your antibiotics, but they're not as known to people, and there's very limited places where you can drop them off. So with our hope with this proposal, we are hoping that this will make it easier for people to drop off their medications and for people to want to drop them off instead of dumping them down the toilet or washing them down the sink.
Once we are funded, we plan to purchase 2 acres of land in Louisa, specifically upper left Louisa since it is the most centralized, and build a warehouse to store the collected antibiotics. Along with the warehouse, we plan to purchase trucks similar to ones used by UPS to go around to the located areas with the drop-offs, which include places like CVS, big retailers such as Walmart, and gated like communities where they'll be able to be dropped off in sealed boxes. Along with the trucks, we plan on buying drug incinerators, commonly used by law enforcement and the government, to dispose of the collected antibiotics. Qualified medical workers who understand how to handle these things would be running the machines and other needed medical jobs. On the 2 acres of land, we plan to also have some sort of landfill, so the ash of the antibiotics is not just thrown into random areas and polluting our environment as a different form. We plan on running marketing campaigns to show the public where the drop-off locations are and to help them understand why we're doing this and why it's such a big issue. We can measure our success by the decrease in antibiotic-resistant related illnesses at nearby medical facilities, along with the sheer amount of antibiotics collected. We'll know we're successful if we are able to decrease, stop, or completely reverse the spreading of antibiotic resistance.
The budget for our project used the majority of the $1 million with a few $1,000s left over. The budget can be sectioned into 4 sections labeled transportation, location, employment, and miscellaneous expenses. For our transportation section, it will be roughly $60,000. That contains the cost of the vehicles, the maintenance for the vehicles, and the gasoline costs. For the location, this includes the building, the land, and the equipment necessary to incinerate the drugs. For the employment costs, we plan to hire 4 truck drivers with the salary of $30,000, 10 factory workers with a salary of $35,000, and 1 building manager with a salary of $65,000. We also plan to give all 15 employees health benefits for $7,000 each. For the miscellaneous expenses, these are things like marketing campaigns, for which are $8,000 a piece, and we'll have 4 of them. And then left over, the $18,000 could be used for furnishing the building and storage of the antibiotic acids.
Antibiotic resistance was first discovered in 1940 when a strain of E. coli was found to block the effects of penicillin. This started the global crisis of antibiotic resistance, and federal agencies like the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and the World Health Organization have taken actions in order to prevent this. They have decreased antibiotic resistance rates by 20% and death rates by 30%. Our main concern is the throwing away of unused antibiotics and throwing them away in the trash can, flushing them down the toilet. This causes water pollution in the water systems, and this can cause immune issues for people, and when they further have diseases in the future, these antibiotics will not work on them anymore, so this can be very severe and cause many deaths. We deserve this funding for our proposal because antibiotics resistance is one of the largest growing medical concerns in the world. Thank you.
All right, thank you guys for your presentation. The first question I have, because there's one of the really important aspects of this project is why are things necessary, is how many antibiotics are you aware of in your research that get disposed of in ways that end up in the water systems or become pollution?
It can honestly be like any kind of, the research I did, a lot of it was medications that you get like when you get a cold and you take those medications, and instead of like finishing the medications off, you'll share them with your friends or family, or like painkillers, you'll share them, and then, which is not good. And then, but they don't get disposed of properly, and they can get into, and a lot of people just flush them down the toilet because like they're expired, we don't need them anymore. What am I to do with them? So they just flush them down the toilet or wash them down the sink, and they're not disposed of properly.
Right, and I understand that that's a problem, but did you come across, like, I mean, we have to have a certain concentration of these medications showing up in our water system for it to become a problem. Is there evidence that this is a problem so that we would therefore need to fund a project like this?
Yes, in one of the research articles I read, it was mainly focused, I believe, in the Middle East. There was a lot, they showed that in their water systems there was traces of antibiotics in their water systems, and these people were consuming them. So with the very little medications they did have over there to treat the diseases, they were not working because they were getting into the water systems.
Great background research. I do have a follow-up question to that as well. So, disposing of these medications, walk me through, is this in addition to the currently existing medication disposal programs that are out there? Most major pharmacies are equipped with medication disposal. FDA has pretty extensive information on when, how, and where to dispose of that. What do you propose to do that is either an addition, a novel approach, something that adds to what's already out there, or supplements it, modifies it? What's the idea? Help me understand that part.
We want to make it more easily accessible for people to do on a daily basis. We don't want it to be like drug collection like once a month or once a week. We want it for people to come like whenever they can, whenever it's easy for them. So it doesn't have to be like a specific time and date. Just whenever they have the time, or whenever their medication is up, like whenever they need to dispose of it.
That is key. That's what we were trying to get to, because the current plans, they usually come through once a month. So we're trying to see, like, what are you adding to what already exists? So, good answer.
So a permanent dump site that is not month locked.
And thank you for putting it in Louisa.
All right, thank you very much, guys.
there can be. Y'all gonna go eat? No. Okay, so if you'll get the one from the judges table when you get to that side. Realizing it's mid-morning-ish, people keep asking when the pizza's coming. Not quite yet. We will get through the presentation for our alternative medical practice, and then we'll do lunch. So at this point, it's still going to be a little bit. Everybody ready? Judges, are you good to go? All right, so we are going to have human life extension in this group.
Good morning. My name is Gabby McGee, and we were assigned the topic of human life extension. This is Aubrey, Megan, Kelsey, Gavin, and Blake. Human life extension became a prominent topic in the 19th century. More hospitals were adopting new sterilization techniques that allowed the life expectancy in the U.S. to more than double in the last 2 centuries. Control of infectious diseases, safer foods, cleaner water, and other non-medical social improvements allowed the life expectancy in the U.S. to more than double in the last 2 centuries. Our topic introduces new Virginia Aging Control Centers that will bring new technologies to local communities that will work to further advance human life extension research and outreach.
In our research, we came across many prevalent things, but a few of the larger ones were Blue Zone diets, telomeres, and gender studies. Blue Zone is a research company that did research in a few communities with their diet, which was 95% plants as shown on the diagram and 5% meat. And it found that those who had adapted to the diet versus those who hadn't did lead longer lives than those who hadn't and had fewer health risks and problems. It was also found, telomeres are caps on our chromosomes. They develop as the chromosomes are formed, and they are developed at length or their length is determined when they are developed. And they shorten as we live, or as we age. And it's been found that they can be lengthened with diet and exercise, and it is being tested if they can be genetically modified to be longer so that we live longer lives. Finally, gender studies. A big one is why do men lead shorter lives than women? Part of that is because as men age and get into their middle ages, they start to lose their Y chromosomes around 40 to 60, and that puts them at greater risk for cardiovascular diseases such as heart attacks and strokes. On the opposite side of that, women who have been found to have been taking anti-aging medicine have had better luck with IVF or in vitro fertilization, and it has extended a biological process that would have otherwise died off a long time ago.
So even though there isn't a way to make someone completely immortal, there are still countless research foundations, organizations, clinics, etc., that center around extending a person's life. So basically our solution to this problem is that we're proposing the renovation of an abandoned 2-story building. And what we want to do is we want to split it in half so we can dedicate each half of the building to their own solution. So on one side of the building, we will have a hormone replacement clinic, which is basically patients will be welcome to come in and be injected with hormone replacement, like a telomere lengthening medicine, and similar to a vaccination clinic. And this will be open to the public and covered under insurances. So ideally, this will be free for people that have insurance. And it will also be open for high school students and student nurses to come in and volunteer to gain work experience and volunteer hours as well. So the other part of our building would be our secured injection site, or an SIS. Basically, an SIS is a place where someone can go
when they're struggling with addiction to slowly wean themselves off of said drug while like simultaneously reducing the risks that come with intravenous drug use, such as AIDS or skin infections. So while they're here, they'll be able to utilize sterile medical supplies, and there will also be medically trained staff on hand at all times. This wing will not be open to high school students. Even though our solution is designed to help masses, there are still assumptions that come that still leave people with doubts in their heads. One of these assumptions is people think that when an SIS is opened, there will be more crime rates because, I mean, it's a place where people can go to do drugs safely. But this is actually opposite, because when an SIS was placed in Canada, it actually had a relative reduction risk of 67% in opioid users. So this means it reduced the risk, so it's beneficial. And another assumption is that their quality of life will diminish because their timer is being removed or like extended, if you will. This is actually opposite, because when you're given more time to live, you're also given more time to accomplish things that you've always wanted to accomplish. And also, our hormone replacement clinic is beneficial to people because it makes human life extension more readily available for average people.
To extend human lives in local communities, our group aims to open up VACCs to provide opportunities to extend human lives throughout the state to a wider range of people. These buildings, similar to the one shown here, will be previously abandoned buildings that have been renovated to a medical grade facility, with one section dedicated to hormone replacement therapy and gene therapy, and another a separate section dedicated to the SIS. These facilities will act similar to vaccine clinics in that they will provide opportunities for people to receive required medical treatment at a free or reduced price, therefore extending the opportunity to extend a person's life throughout the state of Virginia.
So to make this proposal happen, we would need the funding of this grant. A building could likely be required for between $300,000 and $350,000, including potential closing costs. To make the building suitable for use as a VACC, renovations would likely have to be done because, again, it has to get up to a sterile medical standard. But since part of this project is designed to reuse abandoned buildings in the area, these costs of renovation could vary based off the age and condition, although we're estimating it to cost somewhere between $200,000 and $400,000. The remaining $300,000 or so would be used in correspondence with programs we hope to form partnerships with, including the NHRC and other research programs in the field of hormonal-based therapies. And this could provide at a base level things like furnishings and medical equipment such as gloves, masks, and needles, and remaining funding would be used under their advisory to keep the price as free or as low as possible. Finally, volunteers would hopefully be provided in correspondence with these programs. Trained volunteers to actually provide the treatment, since high school students are not allowed to do so. But the high school student volunteer program would also keep costs down by allowing them to run more mundane tasks in the background while still gaining volunteer medical hours.
In the logistics side, we decided as a group that the people who will carry out the plan will be the nonprofit organizations and volunteers, with Megan and Kelsey here being in charge of it. And as you can see from this timeline here, once we have the $1 million, we decided to spend the first month looking for we decided to spend the first month house hunting, meaning looking for a suitable building for our Virginia Aging Control Center. And once we have decided on what building we want, we will make a closing deal, making it official, which usually takes about a month. After that, we will start making renovations, which takes about 6 months. And the reason why we pick 6 months as well is because we want to make it safe for both the volunteers and the patients inside that go in the center as well. Not to mention the fact we don't have to worry about deadlines, since we have plenty of time with 6 months to fix any errors that can occur throughout the 6 months. Once we finish renovating the building, we decided that we would start recruiting volunteers between 1 to 3 weeks. This also includes collaborating with local high schools in order to to help students who want to gain experience in the field of medicine or want to study pre-med in the college years. And the way we will measure how our center will measure the future is by the decrease of the deaths of addiction, drug people, and crime rates. Now, I know you guys may be wondering why I said decrease in crime rates. Well, the reason I put in the decrease in crime rates is because people who are addicted to drugs will do anything to get drugs, meaning including death or maybe robbery as well. And if we see a decrease in crime rate, that will mean that will decrease in crime rates. And the way we will know as well if this will be successful is as well as if there's a decrease in cancer deaths as well, because hormone therapy can help alter the body's hormones, which it can help prevent or even slow down the progress of cancer cells that are growing and reproducing.
So in conclusion, human life extension has become a prominent topic over the past 2 centuries. Advances in science and medicine have led to greatly increased life expectancy through more sterile hospitals and other developments. Today, scientists look to prevent death through drug abuse and aging. To combat aging, scientists are looking into potential variables that may be in control of this process, such as diets and how what you eat and what you don't eat can consistently extend or shorten your life. Telomeres, how these important pieces of your chromosome are distinctly connected to how long you live. And gender, how the deterioration of certain genes can lead to disastrous health effects in the aging process. And with this grant, we hope to utilize VACCs to hopefully extend the lives of those in our community while becoming a world leader in this topic. We also hope to use this funding to get some experience for those in our high schools that wish to have medical experience and hopefully make our community a better place.
Thank you for listening to our presentation. We would now like to take questions.
Okay, so we're trying to connect again your topic to what you're doing. So yes, let's fight drugs. Yes, but how does this all relate to this building you're creating and the training you're providing for high school students link back to your overall topic? Human life extension.
Okay, so when we were first presented with human life extension as a topic, we were kind of hitting a wall because we kept going the more living forever, that kind of life extension. But we were talking to some of our teachers, and we were thinking about it, and we were thinking that so in regards to the drug one, it's more extending it in the sense of not dying because of drug overdose or AIDS or skin infections or things that can happen because of drug use. So that's kind of combating that and extending their life past where it would end if they continued.
In addition to that, we wanted to take both approaches, whereas continuing the life extension and preventing death.
Okay, so then back to the novel idea. What is what you're doing different than the fact that some of these clinics, like methadone clinics and stuff like that, already exist in our local areas? How are you different? What are you offering differently than what they could get from elderly clinic?
So there are no supervised injection sites in the U.S. There's only, I think there's about, last time I researched it, I think there's about 67 globally. So intravenous drug use. So from what I've seen, it's for when people go shoot up drugs through their veins, inject it. It's kind of to combat that. So it's kind of like a risk reduction rather than completely stop. It's take small pieces away until you're good to go on your own.
We also do not have gene therapy clinics at this time. That is a very expensive and very hard to get medical procedure, so that would extend that technology to anybody from any class or economic state.
That's what we're looking for. So there are drug clinics and all sorts of different ways to help people off drugs that exist. That's your seller. That's your piece. That's what we're looking to hear is, what are you offering differently than we could go get in Richmond?
And just for my clarification, when you say gene therapy, do you mean hormone replacement therapy, or is those two different things?
They are two different things.
Okay, I didn't see that in the presentation, did you? I have to go through it. Is that a slide there, or did I miss that? The gene therapy, I saw you have two floors. You have a hormone replacement floor and a SUDS clinic for helping people get off of methadone in the bottom, right? So you've got two floors. Where would the gene therapy happen? Because I heard hormone replacement and a drug dependency clinic. Did I miss the gene therapy clinic?
The gene therapy and hormone replacement therapy clinic would be on the same floor because they are similar procedures, but they are two separate things.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, we now have behavioral medication in minors.
Good morning, everybody. Today our presentation is going to be on behavioral medication in minors. I'm Addison. This is Adam, Ananda, Ileana, Taylor, and Jacob. So the first known usage of behavioral medication in minors was in 1937 by a scientist named Charles Bradley. He was a professor at a local school in Rhode Island, and he noticed that some of his students had attention span problems, and they were lacking the attention and the focus needed to learn in a classroom setting. So he found a local medication to give them to increase their attention spans. This was the first known use of medications in children and was the only treatment known for all behavioral disorders. As of now, since the research has gone further, they have now had more treatments for more specific disorders and not just one treatment for all disorders.
So as a whole, behavioral medication is a science that focuses on decreasing and overall preventing mental health illnesses. The data and research that is collected from people who do suffer from mental health illnesses is taken by medical scientists and is used to help create treatments for people who do suffer from mental health illnesses. The research and all has been going on for at least the last 80 years, and the main focus for governmental agencies and public organizations is specifically finding the individuals who suffer from severe mental illnesses and creating the correct treatment for them. Some of these organizations are the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration and the National Council for Mental Health Wellness.
Our proposal was to create an open travel clinic that can reach any rural area or underfunded area, to create an outreach for those children who aren't usually able to get medication for their behavioral disorders. Our goals are to reach more kids that usually aren't able to get these medicines for a cheap price in underfunded areas where their parents can't afford it.
So our statement of need really goes around the fact that the minors and adolescents who do suffer from mental health need, or severe mental health, need access to treatment and intervention so that they can get better with attention span and things like that. Our travel clinic is an alternative from going straight onto medication. It gives these kids an understanding of how to properly deal with their mental health without having to go on harsh medications that can sometimes be very dangerous when it comes to physical health. It's also a great affordable alternative for parents of minors who, instead of paying for medication and hospital fees and stuff like that, they can use our travel clinic as a way to help their child and also get the correct information about how to help their child themselves.
So the goals of the traveling psychiatric clinic is to increase the availability of behavioral health care to children around Central Virginia. So the main goal in the moment of the children when they're being treated is to increase the well-being and just improve their well-being and help them become not only happy and healthy when they're children, but carry on into adulthood and help them become successful and hardworking adults. So in order to do this, there's going to be specialized care such as therapists and psychiatrists. And during the therapy sessions, the children are going to be, not interviewed, but just kind of like talked to by the therapist in order to gain more information about them and decide whether they need to go on medication. And if they do need to go on medication, they'll be transferred over to the psychiatrist who will provide medication. And unfortunately, behavioral disorders aren't treatable, and there's no way to fully cure them, but the medication will help subside and reduce the symptoms. And in order to really test the productivity and influence that we want this travel clinic to have, we're going to give out surveys at the end of the treatments for not only the children, but the adults, and just asking them how the availability of behavioral health care has changed since their treatment and if it was impactful to them and helpful.
So initially, we're going to have to reach out to the health districts of Central Virginia, which for Louisa, it would be the Blue Ridge Health District, and for Orange, it would be the Rappahannock Health District. And we'd need to get this approved, obviously, so we're not doing it illegally. But then we'd have to reach out to different schools, local businesses, and just other public places so that we could find an area to host the health clinic. We'll also need to rent that and pay for extra items such as tables, chairs, and medical equipment. And that being said, the medical equipment will have to be purchased from a reliable source to avoid malfunctions. We'll have to pay potential workers. So volunteers will be extremely helpful for the more mundane tasks, but we'll need to hire trained professionals for the psychiatrics and therapy. Lastly, we'll have to promote and advertise our health clinic so that the people and the citizens of the counties that we're in will know the opportunity that's being presented to them.
So the budget was divided into two sections, large initial costs and monthly costs that would need to be maintained over time. The initial costs would include the vehicle and the trailer in order to house the traveling clinic, along with resources needed to run it, which include the medical equipment, any books, any furnishing needed. For monthly costs, we would need to maintain the vehicles, so things like gas, any repairs that need to be made over certain mileages, and any taxes that need to be paid on that vehicle. And if you look to the pie chart, you'll see that there is a large section left over from our budget, and that was on purpose because this shows the cost of only maintaining one clinic. So we have the option to run 2 or 3 clinics to better suit the needs of people who need access to this mental health care.
Behavioral medication in minors has been researched for over 80 years now, and from this research we have been able to specify specific treatments for specific disorders, because not everybody, even if they have the same disorder, functions the same way. Somebody with ADHD might have different symptoms than somebody else. So with this travel clinic, we will be able to provide help to all people, whoever they may be and wherever they may come from, to make sure they get the help they need, because not everybody, if they live in an impoverished community, they cannot get to doctors and to therapists when they need to. So this travel clinic will be able to travel around Central Virginia and give them help where and when they need it. Also, some people might want second opinions on their diagnosis, or if their treatment is not working the way they want it to get second opinions on what they think might work best for them. So this travel clinic will allow people to get help for what they need or get another opinion if need be. Thanks. Any questions?
All right, thank you all so much. So my first question is, has to do with your pie chart. So it's a really good pie chart. I absolutely love the way you guys have that leftover part. Are you ready for your however? However, what I see missing is this going to need any kind of medical professional on board to run the clinic? How are you planning on legally dispensing said medications?
We were going for more of a therapy-focused treatment instead, and if you can look up there in, salaries, that would be for any psychiatrists or therapists that would be needed. This was based off of median income data.
So in our research, over-medication was a really big problem. So we decided to do the grant proposal for a therapy focus because we want to give medication out as scarcely as we can. We don't want to keep going with the over-medication crisis.
Awesome. I guess my only other question would be, how exactly does this sort of food truck of therapy work? Does it park somewhere and people go to this? What's the business model for it?
So we plan on advertising and sort of making a schedule of where and when it's going to arrive at different places. And then this would be like a free open event for anybody who needed or wanted to come. It would be parked in public areas for people to use it whenever they needed to. And it would be advertised so people know when and where it's going to be.
All right. I think my only piece of feedback would be I'm interested as to where the median salary number came from. because you're looking closer to probably, it's about $83,000 a year salary for a licensed therapist near Charlottesville. So we can say a little farther from that, Louisa, Orange, Madison, these kinds of places lop off about 15,000. So you're probably looking closer to a 60 to 70,000 number there. But otherwise, it still leave you plenty of leftover the way you set up your pie chart, which is always wise when you're asking for that kind of money. It gives you that wiggle room. Good job, guys. The month. Never mind, y'all had it as a monthly cost.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this one and one more, and then it's pizza time. All right, so this group is going to be talking about new drug development.
AT121, an alternative to opioids, by Riley Gordon, Julie Mesa, Jamila Anderson, Michael Clay, Angelina Crane, and myself, Sadie Barb. I want to start off by talking about a brief summary of AT121 and our motives. AT121 is a drug that is being developed as a non-addictive painkiller to be prescribed in place of opioids. AT121 can also be used for former drug addicts for when they need pain relief and don't want to interfere with their recovery process. Our motive is to help fund the research and clinical trials of AT121 so it can be introduced into the pharmaceutical market to help reduce addiction and the crime correlated with it across the globe. Moving into the prominence of AT121. AT121 is important because it is an alternative to addictive painkillers or opioids. AT121 has been proven to work the same as prescription painkillers or opioids when it comes to pain relief, while at the same time it is not addictive. Crime rates revolving around drug addiction will be reduced because people will not be getting hooked to opioids when pain relief is necessary. How is AT121 important to biotechnology? It is important to biotechnology because the methods that were used to develop AT121 can be used to develop medications in the future. Specifically, the chemical compounds that were used to develop AT121 can be set aside for when there is a future need.
Issues with the opioid epidemic. So, following the opioid epidemic, it has had significance since the 1990s. And as the years passed, 75% of deaths included an opioid, following a strong 58% from prescription opioids. And opioid addiction in the US, this had more significance with the 1990s because medical professionals increased the intake of an opioid because they wanted to see the fifth vital sign response. And with this, it had led to the downplay of the misuse of opioids and the aggressive marketing of the oxycodone and the opiana opioid. As these past revelations have showed us, from the 1990s having about 3,442, and as well as 2017 leading us with 17,029, deaths. This, not only are these the overall numbers, but these also are a big chunk of prescription opioids. And with that was a giant spike in opioid addiction.
Non-addictive painkillers that are already on the market. There are many different types of non-addictive painkillers that are on the market and available to people. These painkillers are used to reduce lower levels of pain. Medicines like Advil, ibuprofen, and Tylenol are made with non-addictive compounds and do not cause the person taking them to become reliant on the medication for endorphins like higher level painkillers do. Unfortunately, if somebody is suffering from intense pain, these medications will not be as helpful. How painkillers can be addictive. If somebody is experiencing high levels of pain, they may be prescribed medications such as opioids. Opioids cause lower pain levels in the body while causing the person taking them to experience feelings of pleasure or happiness. This is because opioids connect to receptors in the brain that causes the release of endorphins in the body. Over time, when taking opioids, your body will become reliant on them and not release these endorphins naturally. This can cause the person taking them to go into a sense of depression when they stop. The FDA approval process for new drugs. This is the process that AT121 will have to go through to be approved and be available to people. So far, AT121 has gone through the preclinical trials of being tested on animals for toxicity and proven not to be toxic or show negative side effects. We hope to see AT121 be able to go through the clinical trials of phases 1 through 3, where the drug can be tested on groups of patients in small groups increasing in size with each phase. If that is a success, it can go into the review and approval process and then be a drug that can be prescribed to people.
As the opioid epidemic continues to increase, scientists had to find other ways to help people out. Trying to find a medication that offered the same pain relief with fewer addictive consequences seemed to be what most were looking for. However, some alternatives already existed. Techniques such as therapeutics, acupuncture, and radiofrequency ablation were already being used to solve some issues revolving around pain. However, the world still needed something more. The founders of AT121 are Me Cotton-Co, PhD, Professor of Physiology and Pharmacology, and Nouralain Zavari, PhD in Astrotherapeutics. AT121 was modeled and designed using medicinal chemistry, structure-based design, and an online database that both designed and developed the drug. The AT121 medication, the AT121 medication is said to act upon the mu receptor, which suppresses pain without causing addictive side effects. The above picture shows the NOP and the MOP, NOR and MOP receptors working alongside AT121 in the body. Both these receptors work along like the mu receptor in suppressing pain, but preventing addictive chemicals from invading the brain. Current actions. Like the slide above says, no clinical trials have been done. Only preclinical trials have been run on monkeys. The monkey's tail was placed in 50 degrees Celsius water, and then the monkey was given one of two medications, morphine or the AT121 compound. When given the AT121 compound, the monkey's tail pain almost completely suppressed at a dosage level of 0.03 milligrams, while morphine needed 100 times this dosage level to achieve the same pain relief. Furthermore, scientists found no effects of self-reimbursement in the monkey's brain after the dosage was given, leading scientists to believe that this AT121 compound will have a promising future in humans. Proposal and timeline. Our proposal is to get the AT121 compound to the first stages in clinical trial, using UVA's already existing facilities. Our timeline for our proposal is listed above. In 2023, we plan to start and create a fundraiser to gain the necessary assets for the clinical trials. We also plan to partner with UVA at this point to gain access to their lab equipment, facilities, and personnel. In 2024, we plan to start clinical trial phase 1, and in 2022, we plan to have enough research conducted to stop phase 1 and start entering into phase 2.
Because new drug development is such a costly and time-consuming process, our estimated budget is going to be around $5 million. Now this $5 million is going to be split up into two different parts. The clinical trial part will have $4,250,000 put towards it. Then the remaining $750,000 will go towards fundraising and advertisement. If you look to the left, you can see the fundraising and advertisement pie chart. We'll start off with our more national events. $200,000 will go towards a national campaign, along with $100,000, which will go towards putting signs up nationally. On the cheaper end, we will spend $30,000 on our very own social media, where we will post weekly information on things that we feel people should know. And we also will spend $20,000 on putting us on national television during the commercials. Now, if you look towards the clinical trial, this is our most important part. Starting with the $2 million that would be put towards materials and other necessities needed to do the research. Then we will have 15 researchers, each getting paid $1,000, which results in $1.5 million. And lastly, we will spend $750,000 on lab buildings so the researchers can conduct their information.
In summary, we are humbly requesting $5 million so that we can get this new drug off the ground. Most of the funds will go towards the putting it through phase 1 of a clinical trial, while the remaining funds will go towards a fundraiser for future phases of the clinical drug trial. Assuming all goes according to plan, we will have the AT121 drug go through all 3 phases and be approved by the FDA. And we are hoping to have it out in the market within the next 10 years. Now, let me remind you why this is important. This is the state that the nation is in. And if that isn't convincing enough to show that this needs immediate attention, maybe this is. Or this. Or this. Or this. Or this. Or this. Or this. All of these. The country is facing a crisis that needs to be dealt with. A crisis that is harming people of all ages across all walks of life. Please give us the funds that we need in order to get this drug to the public and stop the senseless deaths that occur throughout the country every single day. Thank you.
So first, before my question, awesome. That is what we're looking for in terms of the why do I want to give you any money? That is an excellent way to drive home that point. So well done on that piece. Second, okay, I'm just trying to follow without leading into the answer. So you are piggybacking on this drug that's already there, and your hopes are with us giving you money is to increase, or I'm about to say the words, make them go faster in their timeline? That's what your goal is yes, we know it's going in this direction, but we're going to put a foot behind it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Can you walk us through why you think you'd be able to speed this timeline up?
Our hope isn't to speed it up. Our hope is to get it to the next stages of clinical trials, because right now it hasn't even gone past clinical, like preclinical trials yet. It's not even hit humans. It's only done on monkeys. So our hope is to get it to a facility where we can do it locally so it can be introduced to an overall crisis in our community.
Is there any particular reason you found why it seems to be, is it stuck at a phase of development, or?
It's just very new and it's costing a lot of money.
Cost prohibitive to develop.
Sorry, your local connection is having them do it here.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
All right, folks, the next group will be speaking on alternative medical practice.
This is Alternative Medical Practice. I am Daniel Patterson. This is Callista, Charlie, Zoe, Alex, and Dylan. All right, for our preview proposal, we will be partnering with UVA. Hold on. We will be partnering with UVA to make a alternative medical facility for helping people who have been suffering from any kind of pain, stress, or illness. We will be using our knowledge and experience in alternative medicine to help those most in need by we will be helping people most in need, creating a common goal, providing relief for everyone involved. We will mostly be focusing on chiropractic care and acupuncture as it can be crucial for extreme joint pain and stress.
Most alternative medicines were created hundreds of years ago, like the ones that we are using in our facility. Chiropractic medicine was created in the late 1800s, and acupuncture was created over 3,000 years ago. However, there has been very little research done on both topics, so we cannot, it's unable to be proven that if they work or not. With our facility, we hope to gain more data and further the research on alternative medicines so that we can help our patients.
The alternative medicines that we will be using are acupuncture and chiropractic medicine. Acupuncture has the most evidence for pain relief for alternative medicines. Over 4,000 scientific studies have been done on acupuncture from disorders ranging from tennis elbow to post-traumatic stress disorder. The CDC recommends acupuncture and chiropractic medicine per Northwestern Health Science University. There is still some controversy surrounding the topic of alternative medicines altogether, but with more research and proving that it works on these patients, I feel we can make it more affordable and easier accessible for patients.
Okay. Our proposal is to open up a center in Charlottesville in partnership with UVA using chiropractic and acupuncture therapy and treatments to help treat patients who have been in accidents such as car crashes, burning buildings, pretty much anything you can think of that you would consider major and or minor.
Our impact on the future. After a lot of accidents, many people sustain life-altering injuries. Some are worse than others, but we hope to limit our patients' injuries. We all know someone who's been affected by an accident in one way or another. We hope that our research will open up the door to more facilities just like ours being built. This will help the millions of Americans who have to recover from accidents every single year. Our lasting impact will be returning patients back to normal after their accidents. If we can help people live the lives they did before their accident, then we are successful. Logistics. The facility will be opened with help from UVA. It will be open near the UVA hospital. It will be run by 2 chiropractors. They will perform physical therapy and regular chiropractic practices. They will also be available for x-rays and massages. The rest of the facility will be staffed by UVA healthcare students. They partnered with us as interns to gain work experience in the chiropractic field. No, go back. All the data we collect will be shared with UVA. The UVA patients will not be receiving the same treatment as ours to see if we are having a positive impact. Proposal and timeline overview. By May 2023, we will hopefully have the grant funding and we'll find an office space to be rented.
Over the summer, we will get the proper medical equipment and then the medical professionals we need. This means by September 2023, we will announce our partnership and then open up to the public. By April 2024, our first patients will have been with us for a few months, and we should have the first batch of data. And finally, by September 2024, our patients will have been with us for a full year, and we should see if we're having a positive impact. Hopefully, we will renew our loan and continue treating our patients.
This slide is on our budget and how we are going to effectively spend our money on this project. We were given a budget or an option to offer or ask for around $1 million. Unlike other groups, we only needed about half of that to make this work. We need only about $500,000 to make this facility a reality. So we can cut these costs into around 4 different groups, or 4 or 5 different groups, 4 of which of our rooms for our chiropractic care, et cetera, et cetera. Our 5th one will be more generalized group. In our group, or room number 1, we're going to have our treatment room, in which we will treat the patients with acupuncture and chiropractic care. In that room, we will have tables and specific tools, which will cost a couple $1,000s. The tables are the most expensive because they are specified for like what action needs to be done. Next, we're going to have our X-ray room. This X-ray room will have an X-ray and an X-ray vest. The X-ray is the most expensive part of this entire thing, costing around $100,000, so we can locate exactly what's wrong with our patients and how we can help them more efficiently. The X-ray vest will also cost around $700. And then we have a table that is also included. That will cost a couple $1,000s as well. In the more generalized area of things, we have vehicles, which will cost around, we're going to spend around $50,000 on the vehicles, so we can transport what we need to do with who we need to do that with. This also includes the gas and other parts of that. Yeah.
Why you should fund our facility? Our facility just wants to help people. We want to further research and data in alternative medicine and what can be used and what can't be used. We want to be able to provide these patients with better lives after these awful accidents and tragedies that have happened to them or their family members. We want to partner with UVA because it'll give us a better reputation and it will bring our facility more into a limelight sort of spot where it will be more center stage by working with them, and it'll be known by people, which will help spread its popularity throughout the area of Charlottesville, Orange, Madison, Louisa, Culpeper, that area. And I believe that is it. Thank you. Any questions? We also have citations.
All right, great job. So one question that I have is just after taking a quick glance at some directories online, I can find a few, like half a dozen acupuncture and or chiropractic facilities within the Charlottesville or Richmond area. So what is it exactly that you're hoping to offer the public that is not already available to them?
So as we previously mentioned before, like chiropractic care and that kind of thing has been around for a while, but it's called alternative medicines for a reason. It's alternative, and there hasn't been much evidence to prove why it's effective. What our facility hopes to achieve is we hope to achieve more knowledge on the subject. So all of our care that we're doing there, that information will go to UVA or some research facility to help us further understand alternative medicines.
Okay, that makes more sense then. And the other question I have is, do you feel like your clinic or your model is going to offer any kind of cost reduction for the patients?
Cost reduction for the patients. So upon research, when I researched costs for cares and whatnot, it varied between $30 and $200 depending on what you wanted to get cared for. Since we are providing research to another facility so we can further our research, elsewhere, it will be a little bit decreased from what may be seen in other places.
We also have a little bit extra in our budget to help. We did not, did you put that in there? Or?
Yeah, as he is correct about that. I did not mention, but we only used $420,000 for our paying for the chiropractors, the receptionists, and all this stuff that's on the pie chart there. So we do have around $80,000 to make sure everything stays functional, and so we can provide for other things we may need in the future.
If we're going to laws of physics, they're going to use a gunshot and they're going to forget the laws of physics.
starting this session off with economic benefits of conservation.
Hello, everyone. We are the initiative Relocate, Restore, Reiterate. This initiative was formed by Taylor Mills, Abigail Meadus, Jacob Polsky, and Lily Ross, and myself, Aaron Richards.
There are over 6,500 invasive species that cause economic and ecological damages every single day. One of the main invasive species in Virginia is known as the Cyrex wood wasp. These wasps drill holes in pine trees, later transmitting a toxic fungus that will kill any pine tree. They were first discovered in New York in 2004, but later spread to other areas, including Virginia. Previously, we have tried to put a hold on the wood shipments to decrease the spread of Cyrex wood wasp in Virginia, although this solution is not ideal because of the restrictions it puts on wood-dependent industries.
The current methods to control the Cyrex wood wasps is letting a parasitic nematode, shown on the right, affect the larva. These insects are considered to be dangerous and invasive to the United States because during their mating season, the female wood wasps plant 25 to 450 eggs on pine trees, specifically Scots pine and red pine. This is important because red pine is common in Virginia. The eggs give off a toxic mucus and a fungus called Amylostorum aureoladium, which is shown on the left, and it kills the spine of the pine trees and spreads.
The Cyrex wood wasp is a type of insect that is native to Eastern Europe, Asia, and parts of the Middle East, but was imported to the United States in 2004 and is most prevalent in the northern parts of the United States. The wasps typically make their nests in pine, fir, and spruce trees between 10 to 30 feet up in the base of the tree. The main issue that these wasps cause to the trees is that when they reproduce, not only do they lay their eggs in the bark of the tree, which destroys the bark and exposes the tree to natural factors, but it also releases a toxic mucus into the inner layers of the tree, which stop the absorption of nutrients and eventually kill the tree. This is a major issue because these trees are already being placed under efforts of conservation due to the threat of deforestation. The statement of need that our group has determined is that in order to save these spruce, pine, and fir trees, we ask that we are gifted the grant money. With this grant money, we plan to create a research facility and a team of research members in which we will go out and we will capture these wasps, research them, and then determine the best and most humane way to relocate them.
In summary, we plan on forming an initiative centered around the management and prevention of the spread of invasive species, specifically improving the current control method in place for the Cyrex wood wasp within Virginia. This initiative's name describes its goals as it serves to relocate, restore, and reiterate. We will traverse the wooded areas of the various congressional districts within Virginia in search of Cyrex wood wasp infestations, and upon encountering said infestations, the wasp will be safely removed and relocated to an enclosure center where employees will conduct research pertaining to the wasp behaviors and functions, as well as how we can best improve this current control method. So thus, by enacting a conservation easement and removing an invasive species from the environment, we are making strides towards our goal of restoring and protecting the natural state of the Virginian ecosystem. After the research phase is complete, any data will be submitted towards the Board of Supervisors where it will then be condensed and later sent to the University of Virginia for peer review. After the data has been greenlit, the Board of Supervisors will travel to various high schools around Virginia, reiterating the dangers of invasive species, as well as how we can best respond to them. This initiative is run by a Board of Supervisors, dynamic employees, and stationary employees. The Board of Supervisors consists of myself and my fellow presenters, and at least 2 of us will supervise each action. The dynamic employees are trained primarily in the removal and relocation aspects of the wasp, as well as how to identify infected trees. The stationary employees, however, are trained primarily in the care of the wasp, as well as standard management and laboratory practices. The enclosure center itself is a small cluster of offices and enclosures located on a large plot of land, which will be primarily under a conservation easement. In the future, our primary plan of expansion is to apply for additional funding so that we can begin the relocation of other invasive insect species within Virginia. If we were to be approved for this additional funding, we would then begin the relocation of the spotted lanternfly as pictured above on the screen.
So for the first part of our project, it will take about a month. We will be building office buildings, building enclosures, and hiring employees. Then for the longest part, it should take about 10 months, running from April 17th, 2023 to February 17th, 2024. We'll have our 3 dynamic employees traverse specific congressional districts within Central Virginia for 2 weeks at a time. They will look for as many Cyrex wood wasps as possible and collect them, and then once that 2-week period is up, they will return back to the enclosures to drop them off. The 3 stationary employees will remain at the enclosure, take care of the Cyrex wood wasps that have been collected, and then conduct research on them. Then, on March 2nd, 2024, all of the research conducted will be submitted to the Board of Supervisors where it will be condensed before it is sent to UVA on April 2nd, where it will be peer-reviewed and published. We will be spending $293,000 on land for the enclosures. We are looking for about 65 acres, and each acre costs about $4,500. Some of this land will be open land for office building construction, for recreation, and for enclosure construction, but some of it will be forestry, as that is the Cyrex wood wasp's natural habitat. We will also be spending $100,000 on equipment to build the enclosures. The enclosures will be made out of metal bars and netting, basically made out of the material that you would use at your house, a screen, to keep out insects. Next, we will spend about $125,000 on food for the Cyrex wood wasps, as they feed on trees and tree sap, so that is what we will provide for them with that money. Next, we're going to spend about $194,400 to pay for the employees. As I said before, we have the 3 dynamic employees who will go out, collect the Cyrex wood wasps, and bring them back, and we have the 3 stationary employees who will stay, take care of them, and conduct research. Next, we're going to have about $59,000 to buy 2 vehicles to transport the Cyrex wood wasps from their invasive habitat to the enclosure. There are going to be two vans, and they each cost about $29,500. And there will be the driver up front and plenty of room in the back to transport the wood wasps. Next, we're going to have about $70,000 for relocation equipment. This will include, but is not limited to, tweezers, insect nets, large plastic shipping containers, and small glass jars. And finally, we're going to spend about $100,000 on research. This will not only include the best maintenance habits for the Cyrex wood wasps, but also possible economic benefits that they have to society. So overall, we're going to spend $958,080, and any leftover money will be used for repairs and for any unexpected costs in our project.
In conclusion, we are removing the Cyrex wood wasp to better the environment and the future of our environment. We know the problems that invasive species cause, and we are ready to find a solution. For example, a recent stat in North Carolina shows that $26 billion has gone to the removal and replacement of invasive species since 2010. Our project will take 1 year, cost $958,000, and will greatly impact the society. We would like to get the grant money because we are reducing the number of Cyrex wood wasps in Virginia and spreading awareness to invasive species all around the world.
Great job, guys. I found your plan of action to be incredibly detailed. Before I get into my questions, I did have one request. Could you take me to the slide that has a picture of the Cyrex wood wasp?
Unfortunately, I was assuming that this was an image of the wasp, but if it isn't, then I guess not. But the other insect pictured will be the insect which we will be relocating after our expansion phase. Okay.
So yeah, you have a picture of a true bug there, not a wasp, so no big deal. So I guess I'm really interested at your approach. it is very different than typical invasive species approaches where there is more of an eradication effort. That doesn't seem to be the thrust of your plan. Am I correct or incorrect in that understanding? What is the thrust of the plan? You've created this lovely lovely spot in upstate Virginia for Cyrex wood wasps. Sounds nice. I understand there is a research component you mentioned over and over again. Is that the primary goal of this, or is there another underlying goal you have for these enclosures and these? Walk me through that.
So our primary plan is to both source any benefits we can from these wasps, as well as to restore and protect the natural state of the Virginian ecosystem, given that these bugs are invasive. So it wouldn't be smart to just let them out into Virginia because they would severely damage the ecosystem. And does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Thank you very much. Bonus points for the amusing image of somebody safely transporting a truck full of wasps to and from one place. But excellent work, guys. Thank you very much.
All right, the next group is speaking about mandatory vaccines.
We are Elise Sweat, Callie Smith, Cameron Smith, Emma Olson, and Seamus Quinlan, and this is our vaccine grant proposal. First, I'll be going what mandatory vaccination is. Mandatory vaccines are vaccines that are required to receive and provide proof of vaccination of to engage in some social activities such as going to school or working at a specific place of work. America has already mandated vaccines such as Tdap and MMR for children entering schools, but as shown by this map, many places throughout South America and Central Asia require children to be vaccinated in all cases, not just to enter the public school system. Some arguments against this mandatory vaccination are religious or health exemptions and simple mistrust in the government or the company that manufactured the vaccines. Some are unable to afford vaccines or have no primary care advisor to administer said vaccines, thus leading to an inability to get vaccinated.
Okay, so the government has placed restrictions on the vaccine manufacturing and sale. Congress passed an act called the Biologics Control Act, which controls drug quality and placed restrictions on the sale of vaccines. The Division of Biologic Standards was also created to oversee drug quality and manufacturing. All people administering vaccines are required to have education on the policies and procedures of administering vaccines prior to being able to administer the vaccines. There's also recommended to be new implementation of this training into education programs before you leave college.
Our group will be focusing on vaccine education. We will be doing this by implementing a education night and free or reduced cost vaccine clinics. Vaccine education needs to be addressed because, as shown by this study conducted by the University of South Carolina, college-educated adults are more likely to agree with being vaccinated or plan to be vaccinated as compared to their non-college educated counterparts. This is especially harmful to the children of those uneducated adults who cannot vouch for their own vaccination. In 2018 alone, 700,000 children under the age of 5 passed away from vaccine-preventable diseases. And a vast majority of these deaths could have been prevented if the guardian of the child was simply more educated on vaccines and the vaccination process. We hope to prove that education will improve vaccine rates and make people more willing to be vaccinated. And we will be sharing the results of our trials with UVA and disease control specialists so they can hopefully enact future plans with vaccine education. These plans could include vaccine education in schools or more readily available information online for adults about vaccination.
As stated, vaccines are an integral part of the modern world, and they're important methods of fighting disease. As such, any decisions made regarding them have wide-reaching effects and involve everyone. Ensuring that everybody is sufficiently and properly informed on vaccines is an incredibly important task. Our proposal is to conduct an experiment involving the benefits of educational campaigns on vaccination rates. We will take our region and divide it into two sections. One section will receive educational resources from us in the form of advertisements and healthcare professionals that will come to schools and teach how vaccines work, dispel misinformation, and provide real-world examples, among other things. The other section will not receive any educational resources from us. After a short period of time, we will set up vaccination programs and clinics and collect data on demographics and vaccination rates. This data will be used to compare both sections and determine the effect of our educational campaigns. As stated, that's all.
We would like to educate the people while giving out vaccines. In one region, we would hold an information month at the beginning of the year, and then after that month, we would open a clinic for people to come and get vaccinated. In another region, we would open a clinic without the information month, and we would then take the numbers of the people that came to get vaccinated between the first and the second region and send it to healthcare professionals at UVA. This not only educates the public, but it also vaccinates people, helping them stay safe and the people around them stay safe. It also gives people a chance to get vaccinated that don't necessarily have the money to go to the doctor to get normal annual vaccines.
So the main people who will be carrying out our experiment are healthcare professionals, as they are the ones who are qualified to educate people on vaccines and to actually administer vaccines when it comes time to opening our vaccine clinics. So as Kylie said before, the education will continue for 1 month at the beginning of the year, and then after that 1 month marker, we will open our clinics so that kids can be vaccinated before the start of the next school year. And we plan to offer school-mandated vaccines such as MMR for measles, mumps, and rubella, and DTaP for diphtheria, tetanus, and pertussis. In terms of goal measurement, we will consider our experiment a success regardless of the results that we get, as long as we're able to complete it. So if we're able to obtain the results of the effects of education on the vaccination rates. So on one hand, we might find that people do respond really well to these forms of education, and we would take that information to local and state governments so that they would know where to go from this point when addressing under-vaccination rates. On the other hand, we might find that people don't respond really well to these forms of education, and we would take that information to disease control specialists to also help them know where to go from this point when addressing vaccine misinformation. And here are the budget sectors for our experiment. So we plan to spend $1 million total, $30,000 each for the vaccine clinic buildings in both districts, $25,000 for the filming and broadcasting of the TV commercials for the education initiative, $200,000 to pay healthcare professionals to appear on those TV commercials and to go into the schools and workplaces for the education, $60,000 to pay for the transportation of those healthcare professionals to and from the education locations, $200,000 to pay vaccine administrators for both districts, $150,000 to pay other employees of the vaccine clinics, $150,000 to pay for the vaccines themselves, $30,000 to pay for the transportation of the vaccines from their distribution centers to our locations, $40,000 to pay for the advertisements for our vaccine clinics so that people know where to find them, and lastly, $85,000 for our data analysis by researchers and then released to the public, governments, and disease control specialists.
So this is our timeline. The first month, it'll be January. We will do the education, and then after that month, we'll open the 2 clinics in the 2 different regions until September, and then close them down and use the October to analyze and collect data, and then we'll release that data to healthcare professionals and UVA to use. In conclusion, education is a crucial piece of misinformation. Education is a crucial piece of how people are misinformed, and as seen in this picture, science, the misinterpretation of science is a big piece of it, and if we can teach people how vaccines work and the science behind it, we believe that'll help greatly in the problem of under-vaccination. We hope to create a better tomorrow for people through this experiment. Thank you.
Great job, guys. Thanks. Great job, guys. Thanks for that. Question for you guys. If I understand this correctly, you intend on having a district that has no vaccine education program, and then you're opening up a vaccine clinic there, and then you're opening up essentially a version of the exact same vaccine clinic in a different district in this place with an education program. Is that? Yep. So then, I like the idea. My biggest question about that is I noticed you had several forms of public outreach. I think there was commercials. I think you mentioned like various other kinds of advertisements. Am I right? There's more than one kind. I don't think that's necessarily wrong, but I would want you to kind of defend that decision in terms of how you're reducing your variables, how would you try and figure out exactly which one's working at the end of your work pipeline? Or if there would be a way you could conceive of the teeth part, those kinds of things.
We could possibly make a survey or something for people in the district that has the all the educational stuff, and that could inform us on which methods they use to get their information from.
So you're thinking of like a classic "How did you hear about us?" kind of question? Yeah, I think that'd work. Thank you very much. You're good.
Essentially, we want to sustainably agriculture. All right. This group will be about sustainable agriculture.
Hello, we are Sustainable Agriculture, and I'm Kayla Schaller, and this is Riley Shiflett, Sarah Turney, Alina Peffer, Liam Rice, and Faith Webb. Most of Virginia's private industry is agricultural based, with an unfortunate tendency toward unsustainable agriculture. With this grant, our research group would implement insect-based farming and food products, lessening the negative impacts of unsustainable agriculture in Virginia, with the ultimate goal of phasing it out entirely. This would create a brighter future for both Virginia's current residents and generations to come. Unsustainable agriculture became an issue in Virginia at the same time as it did for the rest of the country, around the rise of the Industrial Revolution, as companies were grappling for ways to increase profits, compromising public health in the process. That's why you see things like pollution and erosion due to agriculture. It is the destruction wrought by unsustainable agriculture in the wake of the Industrial Revolution that contributes to the importance of sustainable agriculture today. This grant would enable our research team to reverse much of the damage that has been done since then, bringing insect-based diets originating from other continents here to Virginia, and paving the way for a better and brighter future.
Many organizations are continuing to research sustainable agriculture, such as the National Resource and Conservation Service. These organizations are continuing to research soil and water quality maintenance, energy usage, and cohesion with the local environment reforms. The issue with sustainable agriculture is that we need to make sure that we implement it safely and effectively without the loss of food and economic security. In order to safely and effectively implement our plan, as well as convince the public, we are in need of a grant.
Insect farming and cultivation isn't at all common in America for purposes of human consumption. Sorry, I'm going to start again. Insect farming and cultivation isn't at all popular in America for human consumption. And sorry. It's not currently being implemented, and unfortunately, this also equates to many environmental detriments, such as the emission of harmful greenhouse gases, and one of which is nitrous oxide, which has a global detriment nearly 300 times larger than that of the carbon dioxide emissions produced by cars. The emissions from these farms account for nearly 15% of the entire world's greenhouse gases. And this is bad because the livestock farming industry accounts for nearly 65% of the farmer's total profit. So in turn, we should implement more insect-based foods and insect-based farming into the agricultural industry. Okay, so if you look at the graphs here, nuts, which are a relatively vegan and vegetarian food, it does not have a lot of protein, and it also doesn't account for many greenhouse gases. Meanwhile, if you go to beef, which is an animal food, it equates for a lot of the harmful greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, as you can see there.
So to quickly recap what our proposal is, our group is proposing to create a farm that will breed insects to use as a food source. Using these insects like crickets or beetles as a large source of protein will foster better environmental conditions and work to create lower costs than those associated with traditional factory farming using normal animals like cows or pigs, things like that. Using the $1 million worth of money, we will get our business off the ground, we will invest into it, we will buy the land we need, we will buy the facilities we need, the insects we need, and everything else needed to get the business running. After all the resource money has been spent, we will use our revenue to keep the business going. I should also note that eating insects as a large protein source does not take away from any nutritional value. In fact, they are more densely packed with complex B vitamins and proteins than those from normal meat products like beef. And we can create products such as burgers listed above or cookies.
All right, so for our logistics and timeline, our plan is to have a one-year plan that goes into the beginning of 2024 to help launch our product in through the rest of Virginia, starting in the spring of 2023 when we buy 56 acres of land and a facility, both totaling about $620,000 for all of that, which then takes us to the spring into summer when we are renovating our facility with lights, terrariums, and everything that we need for our insects. And we are getting our land ready to start farming our insects, which will happen through the summer of 2023 as we continue to farm our insects, grow the population, so that in the fall of 2023, we can look for local farmers and local farming companies to help start selling our products and getting early feedback on taste, nutritional value, and what the local people think of it. So we can continue to do that through the fall, and then in early 2024, we can launch our product to the rest of Virginia and maybe even neighboring states if people like it.
Unsustainable agriculture has been an issue that has been plaguing our generation for centuries. With our current agricultural techniques, we have extreme detriments to the human populace and the environment, such as starvation due to a lack of accessibility and pollution due to a huge amount of gases and detrimental nutrients being placed into the earth. However, we have conjured a solution to this, which is implementing insect agriculture into our local farms and market.
Therefore, we can solve the impending issue that is affecting specifically our generation with research shows that by 2050, the world populace will be too large to feed. By then, we would have had to increase our agricultural products by 70%, which currently we do not have the resources nor the means to do. However, if we are able to implant insects, we will be able to achieve this. Without it, however, our generation, Gen Z, may not be able to live to see old age, which means that every other issue that we may have to deal with in society that we often overlook, we need to fix this first. Because if we can't, we will not be able to focus on any other issues such as drugs or entertainment or just quality of life. And many people assume that insects are disgusting or gross or that they couldn't be possibly put into your daily meals. However, if the judges look in front of them, you will see two wrapped products, one labeled C for cricket and the other labeled S for standard. If you unwrap them, you can see that the standard cookie is just a store-bought Pillsbury Doughboy cookie that you could get at any local store and then immediately take home and bake. It's high in sugar, high in calories, and not necessarily a nutritional treat. However, it tastes great. If you unwrap the C cookie, this cookie has been home baked the night before using cricket flour that has been imported from Canada. This is extremely high in protein and nutrition, with it including 19% of your daily protein intake. If you would like, you can take a taste. Yes.
Is there dairy in these? At least in the cricket one.
Yes.
I need a brave Madison Mountaineer. Jacob, I saw your hand first.
We also have many extra cookies for students who would like to try them at the end.
We're going to let them wrap up while I get my official taste tester here to give me notes in a second.
So with these cookies, you can show that insects are not just something that you can find in the back of your local Spencer's in a lollipop, but actually a treat that you can enjoy on the daily or be implemented into your daily meals, such as burgers or other stereotypical meat products. Therefore, you can see how insect agriculture can be implemented to not only quite literally save the world, which is exactly why we need this grant, but can also be used as something that is fun and delicious and extremely nutritious to eat. Thank you. Any questions?
All right, Jacob, 1 second. I'm going to have you sit here for a second. So, guys, voting is a huge part of this, and of course, for this proposal, we need some unbiased account from one of your own. So I have Mr. Jacob Polsky here, who is going to share his opinion on both the Pillsbury store-bought Instabake cookie and the handcrafted with love cricket flour cookie. So go ahead, Jacob. Give us your thoughts. What do you think?
So, right off the bat, the Pillsbury cookie it's classic. We all know what it tastes like. You know, it reminds you of childhood. You know, holidays. Oh, okay. You know, it's not bad. It just tastes kind of processed. The bug cookie, it was sweet. It tasted good. It tasted homemade. A little burnt, if anything.
Gone. So, which did you prefer?
Bug.
Bug cookie. All right, thank you, Jacob. You can take those prizes back with you. Let's see, questions I would have for you guys. My only question, I love the premise. I'm going to say that up front, so don't take this as a slight against it. You have all this great data. It's well researched. What would you guys say to just a plant-based versus a bug diet? Why the bug diet? Sell that one over the plant-based to me.
Well, bugs I have stated before, they are extremely high in protein, and especially with plants, you can find that it would be very hard to get proper protein intake, and especially as someone who works out and exercises often, I want to have a lot of easy access protein, and these bugs can provide protein. They are extremely, extremely protein dense. and can just provide a lot more nutritional value in a smaller amount of food.
Okay, I'll take it. You can get the protein you need from brown rice and broccoli, but overall, this was a great presentation. We thank you for the cookies.
If I may, no, it's not like that. I promise. We also have a huge amount of cricket cookies, if it's possible to give anyone who would like to try it for themselves.
After, we are going to have to keep things rolling as we're behind schedule, but you guys, well done. Thank you for providing a product. That was great stuff.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, please listen for this slight detour. Slight detour. So, because we've run over a little on time, Orange is going to have to depart in a minute. So hold. We're going to explain how to use the online form. It's an online Google form. You've done those before, so I know you understand that piece of it. There is one more we've got to explain. So, what's going to happen is momentarily Orange will depart. They're going to vote on the way home. So if you have people with Orange in your group, you need to take a couple of moments and discuss your overall money disbursement to the groups that have already presented. And then we will go from there. Ms. Outen, has the form been shared out to them yet? So Orange County, before you depart, you need to see our office to get a copy of the QR code so you can access the form. Only one member of your group, your presenting group, will submit the Google form, okay? There are directions, of course, on it as you see it. So momentarily, take a few minutes to talk about the presentation so far. Change that, something's changing.
Investment. So Orange, you need to make sure we're going to make a pile of your notes after you've talked to the other half of your group on the back table where the camera is.
Can they turn in the notes after the other group leaves?
I will collect them and I can scan them and send them. Then we got to divide them out and they go to the other teachers. So all the Orange notes I need before they leave. Like right now. So quickly talk with your group. Orange. Antibiotic.
So Orange, you need to be quickly heading towards the door. They are concerned about you departing in time to get back to your bus at the high school. So ready, set, go. All right, if everybody else can settle, please, we can get the last group up, get rolling. All right, our last group today, we'll be talking about artificial intelligence.
Hi, I'm Mariano Perez, and I will be presenting artificial intelligence in VR training and automotive repair. This is Michelle Thompson, Aiden Miller, Madeline Talbert, Emma Tucker, and Isabella Strickland. Artificial intelligence is incredibly widespread in our modern world. It is used in business and healthcare for management and predicting supply and demand, but we plan to use it in a capacity where it generates 3D structures, also known as procedural generation. This will be used in our VR to simulate a workshop and different automobiles.
Our proposal consists of using responsive virtual reality technology to give haptic and tactile feedback in a simulated automotive repair course. This course, being offered to high schoolers, specifically those in the BRVGS program, would make use of artificial intelligence and virtual reality to provide descriptions of common car parts. This will also help with different situational and safety trainings for students. This will also help students with their ability to run diagnostics on different problems and not be limited by what vehicles are available at their school. As for safety training, students could interact with parts of a car and see the consequences of their actions without experiencing them firsthand. Students could receive warnings about potential actions and correct said actions. In the future, expanding the field of careers available via VR headsets and artificial intelligence programming would open up opportunities for different interests and career paths. Giving students the resources to expand their knowledge on common workforces begins to create a new way to learn. This is safer for students and allows for instructors to get through course material more efficiently because all students would have the same baseline knowledge on parts and safety.
The compelling issue we attempt to tackle with our proposal is one, safety, and by proxy, equality throughout the schools. With safety, we aim to help prevent injuries from new students just learning about automotive repair. And as for equality, we could provide this program for smaller schools that may not have an auto repair course to have an accredited course. And for larger schools, we could be saving them resources that they can further reinvest in programs for future use.
For our proposal, we are going to create a VR training program that uses AI in several ways to create a more realistic feel. This would be beneficial for both students and schools because even if they do not have the resources to create an entire automotive facility or buy different types of cars for students to service, they can still train without having to have that type of resources. It would include AI in several ways. The first of which is using hand tracking AI to detect the user's hands so that they can have a realistic simulation feel and they can interact with the objects inside the simulation more realistically. The second way AI is going to be used is with a prompt-based AI generation system where an instructor can input a certain situation for a student to train on, and the AI will generate the situation for the student to practice on. This program would also add more safety to automotive training because they would not have to work on an actual vehicle and face the dangers that come with that and could at first learn safety principles before servicing a real vehicle.
To create our software, we will hire a software developer and a video game developer to create the graphics and software needed to create this program. We will put our team in an office building that is being rented out, and then in addition to the software developer and video game developer, we will hire a certified mechanic and ask the assistance of an OSHA inspector to make sure that our simulations are validated and are as realistic as possible. We will measure our success by looking at graduation rates of our program
and looking at how many kids in the program went on to go into a career that is auto tech related.
We estimate that a total of $700,000 will be spent over the course of the project. And as you can see on the screen, we've broken that down into a couple of different smaller expenses. So the program development cost largely consists of the cost of the AI which will be used, which is low but may increase if we run into any issues. The development team consists of 7 programmers, and this is the highest cost listed as we want to fairly compensate each member of the team for their expertise in artificial intelligence and virtual reality. We will also, as previously mentioned, hire an OSHA inspector as well as a professional auto mechanic to periodically oversee production and ensure accuracy and effectiveness. $25,000 will be allocated towards the cost of renting an office space or a workshop. Ideally we will have about $300,000 left over, although again this money will be used if we run into any problems during development. Any and all leftover funding will be put towards assisting schools in implementation of the program, whether that be through, for example, purchasing equipment, hiring teachers, or finding classroom space.
Our timeline up on the screen, as you can see, in January of 2024, we will hire the team members and do an initial project proposal. Starting in February, we're going to start the development of the system and then begin consulting like our professional mechanic and our OSHA inspector for them to give us some tips about the development. From March to July, we're just going to continue development, work on it full time. Starting in August, we will do initial tests of the program and then kind of further consulting by the mechanic and the OSHA inspector on the validity of our and accuracy of it. September 2024, more development and continue testing with professionals, and at this point, maybe some student pilot runs. October, November, kind of same thing, some more pilot runs, maybe kind of introduce it into the school building, let kids play around with it, and then December 2024, hopefully the debut of program.
Artificial intelligence is becoming increasingly popular and accessible. This is because AI is a useful tool that, when used the right way, can benefit many. Our proposal is to create a virtual reality program incorporating AI to simulate an auto technology workshop to use in an educational environment. With a timeline of 1 year and a budget of around $700,000, this leaves us with an extra $300,000, of which we hope to use to help schools fund for the necessary equipment needed to implement the program. This not only keeps students safe, but also keeps learning accessible. We plan to start implementing the program in the schools associated with Burvigs. However, if this is successful, we will continue to expand to reach schools across the nation. Overall, our goal is to reach students and help them into the world, as well as provide a unique opportunity of learning.
This is a first. We have no questions, but I do want to add this. Way for the stamina, being the last group that had to wait all day long to hit local, hit a good budget, hit a good explanation, embody what the project was looking for, so well done. Everybody else did a really good job too.
Great job, everybody.
All right, so those of you that are left, Louisa, Madison, and Greene, you need to take into account, if you had half your group from Orange, what their opinions were. sit down and you need to decide how you're going to invest. This QR code, you can either, I have computers back there if you need one, or you can use your phone to go to this Google form, and you need to put in how much you would give to each group. Couple things to note. There are some topics listed on there that say they are only like FGON. Those means those topics the other cohort, Fluvanna, Goochland, Nelson did. So for those, you would just put 0. For the group that presented while you were in the hallway, you just put 0. And for your group, you type the words your group. And then for the other groups that you're giving money to, don't put a $sign, just put a number. That way we can automatically calculate it. So take just a couple minutes and then submit to this form. And we're just one person per group. And then I'll be able to I'll look at the sheet and be able to make sure we get everything.
Right, but when you said to like put in your group, do I say my group or your group? Your group. Like your group. In the correct way. It's on the correct way. Okay.